सगळे आमचे CCR TV पळयणाऱ्यांक माय मोगाचो येवकार. You are watching the program called In Conversation With, and today's guest is Dr. Jorson Fernandes. Dr. Jorson, welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Jorson is a very well-known faculty in trauma care, first aid and emergency care. He has been with the St. John Ambulance in Goa right from 2000 onwards and has been conducting various courses for even the doctors, lay people, and especially for all the industries. And that's basically what we call it as the CPR, but the CPR has undergone a lot of changes now. Accidents will happen, they are happening, and road accidents in India are recognized as the worst problem of the nation. Goa has earned the nickname of the killer state as far as the road accidents are concerned. Overall, 140,000 people die each year, and 115 people who leave home today are never sure that they will return home as they had left their house. They say that every fourth minute there is one road casualty in India. That means there are about 11 accidents for every 1,000 vehicles. Coming to Goa, 2,288 people died on Goa's killer roads. In 2,365 accidents. This figure is from January to October 2023. Extremely high rate of accidents in Goa means Goa is facing a crisis on its roads. We are not talking about why do accidents occur, why the number is going up. But should an accident happen and there are casualties, could we still do something to save the life of the person who has undergone a traumatic experience? In October this year, 2023, we have witnessed in Goa 2 horrific cases which caused 6 tragic deaths and grievously injured 5 people. The survivors are left physically disabled and on a long and painful road to recovery, while the families who have lost their loved ones are left to grieve with no resolution in sight. India ranks first in global road fatalities. Dr. Jorson, should an accident happen on a highway or on any road, in Goa we have seen to get an ambulance within the so-called golden hour that we have been talking, it's almost impossible. Do you think so? The delay in reaching to the casualties can aggravate the situation and it could be death for the casualty.
Very much true, because it's very important for us to understand how our body thrives with the need of oxygen into our system, one. Number two, the best practices that we have got world over, which give us certain standards, and those standards are even an ambulance driver should be trained so that he makes it in that distance in those 10 minutes of time that we have got. When you are talking about the golden hour is nothing but 60-minute clock. In that 60-minute clock that we have got, no sooner you get the information that there is an incident, there is an event that has happened at so and so place, the ambulance should reach there, the rescue operator should reach there, the fire brigade should reach there in just 10 minutes. So they get 10 minutes of time to respond. So that's called the response time. The next 20 minutes out of that 60-minute clock, 10 minutes are gone. The next 20 minutes are for rescue operation. A bus has turned turtle, let us take an example. You have to extricate the bodies out. You have to extricate the casualties out from that bus. Or you may have to fight fire. or there may be a fight amongst two groups. The police have to come and resolve and see that that fight stops. So to do that, they get about 20 minutes. Are our people trained to rescue people in 20 minutes is the next question. The third thing that we have got is where we give emergency aid. So we had first 10 minutes where you respond. The next 20 minutes is where you rescue. The next 10 minutes is casualty transportation, and we are also looking for giving the emergency aid. That means whatever first aid I want to give and the transportation of the casualty for advanced care should take place in the next 10 minutes. Once you finish that and you go for the advanced medical care, maybe it is a district hospital, community hospital, or a private trauma care hospital, or maybe it Goa Medical College, you get 20 minutes to take over the patient. Now that's what covers up the whole of the golden hour of 60 minutes.
That means the golden hour has 4 components.
Yes.
The first component is
response.
Response means somebody who is trained is there within 10 minutes. Then you also call for the rescue agencies. That's either your fire brigade, or if it is water related, you call the Coast Guard. Then you have the ambulance. The ambulance must reach the scene of the accident in 10 minutes. And then you talk also to the casualty medical officer or the hospital, so that the casualty trauma officer, doctor, makes arrangements for all the other doctors, nurses, technicians, then equipment, and that's why it is labeled as a golden hour. Is this golden hour observed all over the world?
No, it is observed in many parts of the world. It is observed, and the standards are much become lesser because they train people, they develop the skills, they revalidate people, which is not happening in our country. I remember when we were training the ambulance drivers, the Gates ambulance, they were not trained at all that time. I really do not know whether the present 108 ambulance people are being trained, because the ambulance drivers need to be trained first and foremost how to respond. To the people who are working on to the ambulance, whether it is the emergency medical technician, whether it is the paramedics, or whether it is the doctors who are there, inclusive of the driver, that becomes one team that is going to give the emergency aid. They should be also trained. How do you respond? How do you get the stretcher out? How do you run to that place? All those things have to be done. So all these people need to be trained. And most importantly, the person who is giving the message, the one who is seeing the accident happening and he wants to call the agency, he has to give a message. How does he give the message? What are the components of that message is very important for all of us. Now, that component of the message is simply being put into an acronym called as ETHANE. ETHANE. Now, E stands for exact location. Where has the accident taken place? That's point number 1. 2, type of incident. What is the incident all about? Is it a fire? Is it a road traffic accident involving a bus, tempo, motorcyclist, whatever it is? Is it a fight between two people? To give you an example, let us say there's a bus and a small vehicle has collided and the two groups are fighting. In the bargain, there is somebody who was smoking, he put the button of the cigarette there and the petrol was leaking, it caught fire. So now in one incident, you have got a motor vehicle accident, there's an assault case and there's fire. So there are 3 sub-incidents into that one event. So you must be able to tell what is that incident for the people to respond back. Now in our case, we have got 108, we have got 101, we have got 100. Are you going to call up all the 3 people? It should be one number and then the people respond depending upon, okay, I need to be there, and they respond there. The third thing is hazards present. If the petrol has leaked and there's fire, then we know, yes, that's the hazard. There's wreckage. So you'll find all splinters of glasses and there'll be metal wreckage that will be jetting out. That becomes a hazard. Oil has leaked out. People will slip and fall down. That becomes an hazard. So if there is somebody who is carrying gas cylinders, that will become a potential hazard. So when in hazards, we have got 2 components, hazards present and potential hazard. So we have exact location, we have type of incident, we have hazards present and potential. A is for express route. How do you come there? When there's an accident like this, naturally the other people on the road will block the road. Even if the ambulance is close by, it may be just 500 meters from there, but they cannot respond. The reason is simply because the traffic is being blocked and nobody respects an ambulance over here. So somebody else who is far away will be able to respond faster, although he is far away, because this side the road is blocked. So we must say which is the excess route. N stands for number of casualties and how bad they are and their severity. So how many casualties are being involved, how bad they are, what is that needs to be done. And the last one is emergency services present and required. There may be a local doctor, there may be a trained first aider in some vehicle who comes and says, okay, I would like to help. There may be a firefighter, he says, okay, I will fight the fire in whatever way I can. So those people also you must talk about. So the whole ETN stands for E for exact location, T for type of incident, H for hazards present and potential, A for access route, how do you come there, N for number of people involved and the severity, and E for emergency services present and required. Now, the Rotary is getting together along with the Junior Chamber International, and we are preparing stickers on this along with the St. John Ambulance Association, and we are putting the stickers onto the back of the mobile. So you have it like how exactly we have over here, so that you can just put it on the loudspeaker and you can look at that whole ETN format and you can give the message to the agency, whether it is fire brigade, whether it is police, whether it is the emergency medical care, you can give the message. That's the primary thing. If you don't give this systematic message, you are not going to properly inform the agency, and the agency will respond in a different manner altogether. There may be 10 casualties and 1 ambulance will come, and then you require another 9 more ambulances. There may be 10 policemen required, and there may be some lady police officers required, and you do not give a proper information. There may be 1 gentleman police officer who will be coming there, and he will not be able to handle the lady. So that's the very reason why a scene size up or a scene information and incident management has to be done, and this reporting has to be done, so that you work yourself to fit into that golden hour of those 60 minutes.
Yeah, in this golden hour, the first 10 minutes become the most important.
Yes, very important.
So in those 10 minutes, besides giving your ETN message that you have explained, what is also important is to assess the casualty and have an assessment on specific parameters. Why do you think the response should be done in 4, 6 or 10 minutes?
Okay, fine. I think we are coming to a little bit of medical, the way our physiology, the system works. To get our viewers the pure concept of how our whole body works is, we have got cells into our body. We have got skin cells, we have got nerve cells, we have got muscle cells, we have got bone cells, we have got liver cells, we have got brain cells. So every organ system has got a cell. The brain cell is a very specific cell. The moment it doesn't get oxygen, the brain cells, they start dying in about 4 to 6 minutes. And the total brain cells will be dying in about 10 minutes of time. And this death is irreversible. You cannot get them back again.
That means if all the brain cells die because they have been starved of oxygen, you die.
Yes.
That's the final death.
Final death. Okay. Now, what we need to understand over here is the brain needs to perfuse with oxygen continuously.
Yeah, there must be continuous supply of oxygen.
Yeah. Now, who carries the oxygen? The blood carries the oxygen. Who pumps this blood? It is the heart that pumps the blood. So it's important for us to understand that if the heart stops pumping, oxygen supply will not be there because the blood is not being pumped to the brain, and therefore the brain cells will start dying in that 4 to 6 minutes. Now, in foreign countries, they always have this standard where people will say, I run an ambulance service, but I make it in about 4 minutes, and here people will start laughing. What sense does it make? Because people don't understand what it is. For them, what it means is, I am able to reach before the brain dies. That is what it means. So even if there's a medical emergency that has happened, I'm going to be there in time. Are our ambulances going to make that into that golden hour ambit is a question that we have to answer today. If we are not making it, then what is the skill that is required? What is the type of knowledge that we require? And the people who are there in the society, what is that adjuvant that we can have from them so that we can make it happen for that casualty?
Yeah, you said that if the heart stops pumping, that means there is no supply of oxygen to the brain, you die. In other words, that means if you suffer a heart attack, or maybe nowadays it is cardiac arrest.
Yes.
So in case of a heart attack, cardiac arrest also is a matter of 4, 6 or 10 minutes.
Yes. So it is important for us to understand this part now. Now, what are we going to do in a situation like this? So what is the first step in our emergency? That's where we are talking about. apart from looking forward for danger because you cannot put your life at risk, and then you carry all your first aid kit along with you, and then you check for the response. Just tap on the shoulders and ask the person for the name, place and the time, and ask him how are you, and the person responds, then it is fine. If the person doesn't respond, you go to check for the circulation, straight, the circulation. If the circulation is there, now how do you know if the circulation is there? If I tie a string to this finger very tight, the finger top part will become bluish. That means when the circulation is not there, it becomes bluish. 2, if you check the temperature, it will become cold. Even when we sit on a cycle bar, after some 15 minutes, we find that the leg becomes numb, the lower part. It becomes cold, and the toe tips will become bluish. So when the circulation is not there, it becomes bluish, it becomes cold. Numbness we will forget at this moment of time as one of the signs. So if the circulation is not there, if you put the back of your hand onto the forehead, you will find that the person becomes cold. That's number 1. Number 2, you invert the lips. Don't look at the lipstick and say that the lips are pink. You invert the lips and look at the inner part. The mucosal part will become bluish. When it becomes bluish, then you know that the person's heart has stopped. And the third one is, by the side of the Adam's apple, if you put your 2 fingers, you should be able to get the carotid pulse. That artery is one which is running straight from our heart into our brain. And the moment you put your 2 fingers on any one side, right side or the left side, but put it on any one side, if you can't get the pulse, that means the circulation is not there. And you cannot waste your time in doing this. If you find that it is not there, then you have to pump the blood, because the heart is not able to pump, you have to pump the blood. And that pumping of the blood, where you are going to put your 2 hands and put it right in the middle of the chest and sink the chest down and up, press it. These are what I call the chest compressions. Earlier we were calling it as the external cardiac massage. We have removed that word cardiac. The simple reason is because they are saying we are compressing the chest. So let a common person understand that you are compressing the chest. Along with the compression of the chest, the heart also gets compressed. So when the heart gets compressed, the blood that is there in the heart will go to all parts of the body. When you are not compressing and the heart with its reclined force comes back again, it recoils, that is the time the blood from all the lungs will come back again here. When you press it, it will go to all parts of the body. And that's why we always say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now these chest compressions should be hard and fast. Hard, almost about 2 inches in an adult, 1.5 inch in a child, and about 1 inch in a baby. That's what is more mean by heart.
So you need to press the heart.
Yes.
Was it called CPR earlier?
Yes, it was called as a cardiopulmonary resuscitation, because we were breathing for the patient, which is being withdrawn today. Not basically because of COVID, but the research has shown that if you just compress the chest, that's enough, because even the lungs tissue also recoils back again and it sucks in the air from outside. So you don't waste your time doing it unless until you have an ambus bag. And you can use the bag valve mask, and you can do the mouth-to-mouth respiration, ambus bag ventilations instead of the mouth-to-mouth.
Yeah, but now for the adults, basically it is press hard and press fast. That works out to about 100 to 120 compressions per minute. So you do it maybe for 2 minutes. You check the pulse again, and if there is no pulse, what do you do?
Okay. If there is no pulse, you go on continuing this in the same fashion till such time your advanced medical care comes in. But every 2 minutes you stop and just check the pulse or check the breathing. If it is not there, you continue it, you stop for after 2 minutes, just check it, and you start continuing. Continuously you go on till such time the medical emergency services respond. Now, what do you require to start our heart? Very important for us to understand, everybody's heart is beating, but nobody tries to understand what keeps our heart beating. Even at a home, we have got fans. The fan starts moving. What keeps the fan blades moving is the electric current. The same way, we have got an electric current into our heart, and this electric current into our heart is coming from a small battery inside our heart which God has given us, and what is called as the sinoatrial node. It fires an electric current, and that is what keeps our heart beating. So this sinoatrial node, if it fails, then the heart stops. Now, what we need to do is we are artificially trying to pump the blood out because the current is not sufficient enough or the current is stopped altogether. Now, to charge this battery, you have got a special equipment. Like when we have a motorcycle battery and the cell is gone off, then what we do is we go and put it for a charger. Our mobiles we put for charging, and the same way we charge this battery, and that charger is called as the automatic external defibrillator. A for automatic, E for external, D for defibrillator, AED. So it has got two pads, one over here, one on the left side in the axis of the heart. We put them, and the machine automatically recognizes the type of current, low voltage, what is the amperage, like how a doctor takes an ECG. It's nothing but like our electrician comes and takes his meter and finds out how much voltage and how much amperage is what the doctors do. And the same way, the machine reads it and the machine says, okay, this is a shockable wave, don't touch the patient, you have to just follow the instruction of what the machine gives. And it automatically gives a shock, and the battery is charged, and that keeps our heart beating subsequently.
The machine talks to you.
Machine talks to us.
The machine gives you the messages. What needs to be done. Will the machine tell you also that you continue pressing the heart?
Yes, because after the shock has been given, and if it is still not charged, the SA node, the machine will tell you straight off, saying that you can now give CPR. And then the CPR is being continued by the person who is giving the emergency aid down there. And then when the machine is going to give a shock, the machine will tell you, don't touch, stand away, looking at the rhythm. And then the machine will say, shockable wave, charging. Shock will be given after that.
Can anybody give this shock?
Anybody. Because it's just a very simple instructions that are being given by the machine, which you have to simply follow, and that's it. It has become so very simple for us now.
So your heart stops. It does not send oxygenated blood to the brain. It could be heart attack. That's what people generally they talk about, heart attack. You have now introduced the electric current, and therefore you have got cardiac arrest.
Yes.
Will people know exactly what is the problem, whether it is heart attack or it is cardiac arrest?
The people will not be able to know. It's only the machine that will tell you, because if it is not a shockable wave, the machine will tell you this is not a shockable wave. It will just tell you.
So for cardiac arrest, if a person has gone into cardiac arrest, where there are no signs and symptoms, you just collapse and you could die if this shock is not given within 5 or 10 minutes again. So you may have a machine in your ambulance. The ambulance comes after 1 hour. It's better that the ambulance should not been there at all.
Exactly. And that's where we talk about negligence. If you cannot make it in time, if you are not within the ambit of the golden hour, you are responsible for killing the person. As simple as that.
Yeah, that means your ambulance must reach the scene of the incident within 4, 6 or 10 minutes, exactly because the brain should not die. It should not be an irreversible process. And that can be prevented with the two procedures. One is you press the heart externally, and you also give the electric shock.
Right.
Now, if this is not done, then you are transporting a dead body.
Very true.
That means we need to concentrate on the vital organs of our body. Which are the vital organs?
The three important vital organs that we have got is, one is the brain, the second one is the heart, and the third one is the lungs. These are the three vital organs that we have got. Now, if these organs are not being perfused with oxygen, most importantly the brain, in 10 minutes the brain will totally die and we will have a brain dead patient. And that's why we need to understand the concept of the golden hour. We need to understand how fast you must reach the casualty, and you must also understand how fast you must give the chest compressions, and which I think should be introduced as a concept into the school curriculum, that when the children are just at that age of 12, 13, 14, they can learn about it, and by the time they are 18 they can get a certification so that they can start practicing it.
But basically now the World Resuscitation Council says, if you are not sure and you know that the casualty is not breathing, straight press the heart hard and fast till the ambulance comes with the AED. Yes. That's your automated external defibrillator. Yeah. So, and these defibrillators today are not huge machines.
No. They'll be just about 6 to 8 inches, and the other side will be around 4 to 5 inches, and they'll be about just 1.5 to 2 inches in height. That's it. And they are very simple. If you don't put the pads, the machine will tell you, put the pads properly. You have not removed the plaster. So everything, instructions will be given by the machine to the person if something is not being done properly. If you have not put the plug, they will tell you the plug is not being inserted properly. So everywhere the machine will go on.
So it is totally automatic.
Totally automatic.
Is it this reason that for all your international or national cricket matches, all national like your I-League, your ISL, without the ambulance and without the AED, you cannot start the match.
Very true, because it's not only the personnel who are on the field who need to know it, whether it's the referee or the umpire, but apart from that, there are so many people who are sitting into the audience and watching the match. They need to be also protected. Similarly, because the ambulance is not going to come in there, right? Because you need to provide an ambulance service which is going to be ready there for our players who could get a cardiac arrest. And therefore, it is mandatory for us, for every 2,500 people, you must have one AED trained personnel with an AED available and a first aid kit. This is very important for all of us.
If you remember, you were there at one time when we had the death of Cristiano Jr. of Dampo Sports Club.
Right.
He collapsed and nobody knew what to do.
Exactly.
And in 2022, we had Christian Eriksen, who played for Denmark. He also collapsed, but he's still alive. He survived only because the player who was next to him, I saw the film, he started with cardiac massage. The medical team which was there gave him an electric shock and he is still alive today.
These are important features for all of us, because it's not important only to become a player, only to become a referee or an umpire. These additional qualifications before you take the command on the play field is important for you. I think it was earlier called as the Cooper test. It is called something else for the referees now. So Cooper test only qualifies you to become a referee, but doesn't allow you to referee a match unless until you have a valid first aid certificate. Very important. A second officer, chief engineer on board the ship, or a captain. You may pass your mate's exam, you may pass your chief officer's exam. That's fine. You are qualified to be the captain on board the ship, but you cannot take the command on the ship unless until you have a medical care or Medicare first aid certificate.
So you need a certification.
Yes.
You have to go through this training. But the World Resuscitation Council, they says, if you are not trained, remember, keep on pressing the heart, because we go back to your first 10 minutes.
Yes.
The 10 minutes, whosoever is present at the scene of accident, if he knows this technology, may not have a certificate, can he start doing...
yes, you can start. Not that you cannot start if you have seen it and you have been knowing it. But you cannot end up into creating complications for the patient, like breaking ribs, breaking sternum, and sternum is the bone in the middle of the chest. Because those complications you will be held responsible for, because you are not being a certified person. Now, when you say very hard, you can end up breaking the ribs. And that's the reason why it is mandatory for officers who are taking command on a particular vessel or on an aircraft or on a play field. It's important for you that you know your first aid. Even for a teacher, for that matter, you are looking after so many students into a school. A PT teacher should be trained. A physical education teacher should be trained. Now, if you are not being trained and you are taking your people on the play field and you are not being trained, you should be held responsible. You may be a qualified physical education teacher, but where is the certification to take care of my students? You don't have that. So there are certain mandatory protocols that need to be done for the people so that they are being trained in, and more lives could be saved. Because if you are talking about a player who has saved the life of a person just because he knew first aid, if all this had to happen everywhere else, I think we could have saved so many thousands of lives.
But we are talking now of saving their life. It is a matter of 4 to 6 or 10 minutes. Would this apply also for external bleeding?
Yes, external bleeding also. The reason is very simple now. When we are talking about external bleeding, this primary survey doesn't run away. I may see somebody who has been bleeding from the leg with a cut. I don't run for that unless until I see this, because if I leave a person who has already got his heart stopped and there is no perfusion to the brain, there is no oxygen to the brain, and I'm looking at a wound on the leg and trying to do a dressing and a bandage, and then coming to see whether the person's brain is supplied with necessary amount of oxygen, and by then the brain is already dead, I have been doing a dressing and bandage for a dead patient. I could have made him survive. So there are protocols, there are procedures which we need to follow. And those procedures that we need to follow talk about danger, resource response, check your circulation, check your airway, check your breathing, and then afterwards you do the whole examination of the body. Or if there are obvious reasons for you to handle a particular trauma case, you handle that trauma case, because you can obviously see it. You can see a fracture down there, you can see a broken bone, you can see a case of burns, you can see a case of bleeding. You handle those things. But that doesn't mean that you are not going to have a rapid fire examination of the whole body system, because there may be other minor injuries, or there may be injuries which are serious but they are covered up under the clothing, which you may overlook. So that's the very reason why we need to do it. There are people sometimes who have got spinal injuries, and when they are being handled and transported, they are handled and transported so very badly that you further injure the patient, which is wrong on our part.
So a good comprehensive first aid becomes very essential.
Very essential for everybody to learn, and it should be introduced into the curriculum so that we have the future generation that is coming in. They come as very effective leaders in medical emergency and as first responders anywhere on the scene, which could save lives for all
So
of us.
in other words, it is a lay person who will actually save their life, and not necessarily the ambulance or the hospital.
Very true. Need not be, because by the time the ambulance come, that 2 to 3 minutes are so very crucial for the person who has been lying down there. And if you, as a trained first aider, started your cardiac, chest compressions and has kept the person perfused with blood all the time into the brain, and the ambulance comes in at around 8th minute or 9th minute, you have a better person who you can handle now. If that person was not there by then, part of his brain would have been dead, and dead forever, would have been left with a lot of neurological deficit.
I remember we were told in our college days that there is an acronym called Doctors ABCD. What is it?
Okay. When we talked about the Dr. ABCD, we talk about danger, resource, response, airway check, whether your airway is open or not. Then we check the breathing, because airway is the passage through which the air goes in, and that's important for us to understand, because if your air is not going to go in, you are not going to have the oxygen that is going to be taken up into the blood. Breathing talks about where the blood will now take in part of that oxygen. Because in the normal ambient air, we have got 21% of oxygen. Out of that 21% of oxygen, we have 5% which is being removed and put into our blood. That happens when we are trying to breathe. And that blood goes into our heart, and C stands for circulation. The heart pumps that blood with oxygen to all different parts of our body. So this was an old acronym that we had, which some of the countries still practice. Danger, resource, response, that is DRR, ABC. So the doctor is with 2 R's, not 1 R. And then ABC stands for airway, breathing, circulation, and D stands for defibrillator.
Defibrillation is your AED.
Yes.
It is giving your electric shock.
Yes.
So, and of late, they say that ABC is now converted into CAB.
Yes. Many people now have been adopting the protocol of CAB, where they talk about first check for the circulation. If the circulation is not there, call for the ambulance, ask them to get the AED and start your chest compressions. Because everything that becomes a priority, because if your brain is going to die, and if you are looking after some breaks of bones or some bleeding or some burns, you are going to deal with a dead person. So you just give chest compressions, and the brain starts getting perfused with all the blood that is on oxygen that is being required.
So in other words, without oxygen and the brain not getting it for 4, 6 or 10 minutes, you cannot survive.
Very true.
And without giving a shock, in cases of cardiac arrest, you cannot revive the heart.
Very true, because now what you need to do is, if you don't have a defibrillator, then you have to take to a center where the defibrillator is available. Or you have to have an ambulance which has a defibrillator. Do all our ambulances have defibrillators? We always have a name, ambulance. But do we have a defibrillator into that?
So an ambulance without the life-saving equipment, one of which is your defibrillator, it's not worth.
Not worth it. The reason is because you are calling an ambulance and you find that there is no defibrillator into that. Now, what we talk about today is mass bargaining. We have got Goa Medical College, we have got district hospitals, we have got community hospitals. So what you do is, for the wholesome network of our health sector, we bargain out with a company, at what cost are you going to give me? I'm going to buy volumes from you. And they will find it better, because they'll say like, okay, if I'm going to sell so many volumes, then why don't I have a center for even servicing? So you can imagine the number. Then you start catering to that in such a manner that every strategic place does have an AED. Every ambulance service does have an AED. Your OPD campus, which has about 300, 400 patients in the morning session, you have an AED down there. You have got your NSS student, you have got your NCC students, you have got your other Red Cross students. All of them can be trained. Some people have 60 hours of service that they need to give. Put them for training there. Give them first aid training. and they'll be more than happy to do that and give them a certification.
And when you train in external cardiac massage, do you do this on a live body or there are dummies?
You cannot do it on a live body. The reason is because you will start interfering with the rhythm of the heart compressions that are there, heart beating that is there. So we have got what I call the cardiopulmonary resuscitation mannequins, CPR mannequins. So these CPR mannequins, they come from different companies. They have got the exact texture and they also have got the exact type of a force that you need to put to compress the chest on an unconscious casualty. You get the same feel. So you feel very comfortable that you have done it, and this was no different doing it on a human being. So that is how it is. Even for the AED, we have got an AED trainer which gives you the same signals. It has got a simulator. I can put at number 1, number 2, number 3, and each of that means I can test the person who is coming for the examination. In one place I give them where they are supposed to continue, and then afterwards the machine will give a shock and again continue.
So this training can be, and it's a simulator training that needs to be done. And there's a skill guide, which gives you the green light or orange light and tells you whether you have pressed properly, done it properly or not. So this needs a training.
Right, true.
And the training can be imparted.
Very true. We do it. Now there are many companies which are multinational companies. They make it mandatory that every person who is into the first aid team, into their corporate, needs to be trained with AED. We have done it for Procter & Gamble. We have done it for a couple of companies where they are saying, no, we want the AED training to be part of it. They have got their AEDs, but they do not know how to use it. Yeah. So what we do is we have added another component of AED training where they are supposed to put the pads by themselves. They are supposed to wait and see what the AED tells you. Accordingly, they will stop the CPR, wait for the next one where they will say charging, shock given, stand away, and they'll give those instructions for the rest of the people. And then they will continue the CPR as the machine tells them.
Of late, we hear the news that people collapse like a fly, they die, and it is normally cardiac arrest. In such cases are increasing nowadays. Nobody knows exactly why. But the fact is that the heart stops beating. So in such a scenario, what is important is that a lay person starts pressing the heart, resorted to external cardiac massage.
Very true.
So I think Goa is facing a big crisis on its roads, and the sight of an accident today is no longer uncommon. If you have casualties, I think we need to have a comprehensive approach to save their lives following accidents. And most victims of these accidents are young people. So it's better that we become a little bit more active, learn this technique of CPR and how to use the AED. Ultimately, we save lives. Thank you, Dr. Jorson, for being with CCR TV, and we hope that you will keep on training people and you will save precious lives. Thank you very much.